it being 7:02 PM on Wednesday, March 20th, 2024. We will begin tonight's select board meeting. The first item on the agenda is public comment. Is there anyone here for public comment? There being none. The next item, review of minutes for February 21st, 2024. What's the pleasure of the board?
I'll move to approve the minutes for February 21st, 2024.
I'll second.
Any discussion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The next item on the agenda, the common victualler license public hearing for Hangry Hot Dogs. Is anyone here for that? All right, we will table that for a later meeting. The next item on the agenda, Rauscher Farm update. If you please come up and introduce yourself.
So thank you for making time. My name is Gloria Parkinson. I reside at 90 Haskell Avenue, Clinton, and I'm here on behalf of the Rauscher Farm Management Subcommittee. And so I just wanted to share with you the one-page document. This is just what's happening in the next 6 months, basically, and some of these are very long ongoing projects. And again, as you know, there's a lot of activity in your own time and all of that. And I've also given you the walking map, which has all the walking trails on it. And here is the first, the April event flyer. Most of all of this goes out via electronic media, e-blasts, Facebook, the usual way of communicating. So, but this is again, there's pretty much all the flyers on Rauscher Farm. They have branding and then they have these lovely visuals. So I just wanted to share those with you today. And I know because you are action-packed and I will speak very fast. And if I'm going too fast, you could just have to slow me down. So this stuff is for keepers, but I need the books back.
Sure.
Right, okay, when I'm done, right? And one of them, as you'll see, is in Spanish, and I will make that explain what this is about. So going at a clip-clop here. So the one page that I've just shared with you, as I say, this is a partial list of what will be added to as the year progresses. And again, as you're very familiar with, Rauscher Farm has recreation activities and programs, and it also has conservation efforts. So I've broken this down into those two categories. The recreation activities are basically that people can visit anytime, dawn till dusk, 365 days a year, to do their own thing, take photographs, go out on Clamshell Pond and so on. So that's there. And then this is just some of the past activities that we've done. So the map that I gave you is available in a large on the side of the barn, as are lots of other signage on the side of the barn. And as you know, there's geocaching and letterboxes. And then we get to the planned recreation programs. And this program right now goes down to June at the moment. So first we've got the Birds of Rauscher Farm. This is the flyer that I've just given you. And this is being co-sponsored with the library. This is an in-house, inside, out of the weather. And I think just wanted to draw your attention to the fact that there will be a sign language interpreter available on request. So again, I ask if anyone here or anyone listening or anyone has connections with the hearing impaired community, because I would like to be able to circulate this as soon as possible, that there will be an interpreter available, but it has to be on request. So I will need to know if there is a need for that. Then we go from, so that's the 13th of April. Then on the 20th, we do celebration of Earth Day, Give Nature a Hand, which is the volunteer day on Rauscher Farm, with the rain date of the 27th the following week. Then we couple another bird walk, again, this time on site with the same gentleman, now David Ammerman. Oh, by the way, he has actually personally identified 152 bird species on Rauscher Farm. And, obviously birds fly over into the DCR as well because they're birds. So there's a lot of bird activity up there. So therefore, there will be a real walk, 7:30 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. on May the 18th. And again, people can come for as long or as short as they like. This event will be included on the Freedom's Way Hidden Treasures May program. That means that all the publicity will be circulated to a very much larger community. Then we have the June installation of the Story Walk, which is, as you see, the kissing hand, which again is for people with younger families. The age group that we usually make sure we target is the 2 to 6 year olds. This is also co-sponsored with the Bigelow Free Public Library. And this is where the Spanish version comes in, because I'm talking to the director at the moment about where we could put the Spanish up as a story walk down in the Clinton community. So, and that will mean network reaching out to people in the community for their advice as to where they think that version of the story walk could go. We always, if we can, Rashford Farm Management Subcommittee for the story walk, we try to find a book that is obviously suitable for young children, but it also has a nature connection. The very first board on Rashford Farm, at the start of the story walk, will talk about the nature that the book is covering. And it happens why this is a raccoon book, apart from it being a really, really sweet book, is that we have got now a whole family of raccoons from June of last year to December of last year on the nature cams. So we will be telling people to go and look at the nature cams, which are on the Rashford Farm website. And we also have a couple of very good photographs of raccoons as well. So we'll do a little bit about raccoons, what they do, why they matter, etc. So that's through to June. So that's 2 in April, May, and June. So it's basically 1 + 2 a month. All right, going fast, conservation efforts. So again, as I think I've mentioned before to the select board, all the conservation efforts on Rashford Farm are introduced only after extensive research and in consultation with recognized subject matter experts. So the current conservation efforts fall into 2 major categories: invasive species management and climate resiliency planning that includes species diversity. And examples of these conservation efforts: one is the biocontrol of purple loosestrife via the government-approved Galarusella calmariensis beetle. And this is a beetle that lives only on purple loosestrife. This is a 20-year project. We've started it 3 years ago, and we have been advised by the professor at Cornell, who has written a major chapter on this whole how to deal with purple loosestrife, that for the first few years, even up to 7 years, it looks like it's spreading, and basically don't panic. And the goal here is that you can't get rid of it, but you're trying to find a balance whereby there's enough for the beetles to eat and survive on from year to year, and at the same time to stop it taking over the whole of an area. And this is a very, very invasive plant. It spreads phenomenally fast. So that's one. So that's the beetles. Then 2, the Rashford Farm Pollinator Meadow Nursery Site. I don't know if you were aware, but we spent a year with volunteers basically preparing this site. Again, this was done in consultation with Professor Rob Gagier, who is now at UMass Dartmouth and is an expert in the native bees and the native pollinators. And the goal here is to have this nursery site, and then once everything starts to establish, then we can allow it to spread. And right now we've got wildlife fence around it. And that's why we're only going to plant half of the site this year, because this is funded independently, by the way. We've done our very best to try and stop the bunnies and the gophers getting in. But until we actually plant things, we don't know how effective. So rather than blowing the whole budget in 1 year, we're planting half of it. So we will report back. Okay. So that's, and then what happens then is, as this establishes and spreads, it becomes a meadow versus a nursery site over the years. And there are 2 native bumblebees that are in serious decline. And the whole planting of the site has been designed and worked out with Professor Kajer, and it has gone through permission from the Conservation Commission. So this is it. We're on our roll for this year. And then the other, okay, another high and time-sensitive priority is the assessment of the Rauscher Farm habitats for climate resiliency planning and management. And the time-sensitive priority, which is now underway, and I want to thank, oh, he's left. I want to thank Mike Ward, the town administrator, for his help with this application. So this is to go to the DCR to fund a licensed forester to update the Rauscher Farm's current forest stewardship plan, which was done in 2017. And the update would specifically look at climate resiliency recommendations and management for going forward, and the diversity, because some of the diversity that seemed good ideas not yet planted to help diversify the woodlands, now we're looking at certain trees that we're being told will not survive, certain species. So again, it's a very important research project to actually assess the habitats now with subject matter experts. The person doing the grassland, by the way, is Professor Marja Bakermans, who is an associate professor at WPI. And so she has made one site visit. So she is looking at recommending what we do with the grasslands, which is getting very, very wet over years. So again, it's all about doing the research and doing the work. The reason why the DCR application is good, because you may recall that Rauscher Farm Management Subcommittee, with your blessing, applied to the North Central, to the Community Foundation of North Central Mass, and requested $10,000. The award was actually $3,000. So this shortfall has necessitated seeking alternative approaches to accomplish the habitat assessments. And that's where the grant request to the DCR comes in. Okay. ADA accessibility path to Clamshell Pond, the town now has it. So because there's obviously been some change in personnel recently. But however, I'm soon, I hope, to be able to meet with the building committee and see what are the next stages, how it progresses, et cetera, et cetera. Something I didn't mention here is that I'd just like to also say, because it's not happened and I don't want to jinx it, but the library has applied for a rugged terrain wheelchair. And the Rauscher Farm Management, we wrote a letter in support of the application, and we don't know if they got it. But if they did, that would also increase ADA accessibility on Rauscher Farm. So let me see where I got to right now. We're hoping also to be able to get an accessible picnic table and a viewing bench at the farmhouse, so that will be part of the whole flow into the path to Clamshell Pond. I just wanted to let you know the emerging nomenclature for accessible trails is now, quote, all persons trails, because it's much more inclusive. You could look, you can find it on the Mass Audubon site, and the Nature Conservancy, and so on. Okay. So thank you for your time this evening. And again, as you know, the Rauscher Farm Management Subcommittee reports monthly to the Clinton Conservation Commission for the commission to give its review, input, and approve. And there's the book.
It's lovely. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Shall I now leave and take my book back with me?
Stay all night if you want.
Yeah. Thanks so much for your time and effort with this.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the packet, all the information.
Thank you. Thanks.
And information can be found, more information can be found about Rauscher Farm at rauscherfarm.org, RAUSCHER, farm.org. So thank you so much. All right, the next item on the agenda, the American Rescue Plan Act recommendation. fire department turnout gear upgrade.
Michael Lutz, Fire Chief. So when we came in front of the board requesting $100,000 for one set of turnout gear for every firefighter. Basically, all the firefighter gear up until just recently that you bought had PFAS in it. So PFAS is, it's not in the liner anymore. They took it out of the liner. It's in the inside of the jacket. So it's your vapor barrier. It's very, very low compared to when I started. So basically it causes cancer. So a lot of firefighters are wearing turnout gear, which everybody is getting cancer from their own gear. So, but it's as low as it can be, and you have no choice. You have to buy that gear. Well, just prior to placing our order, they inform us that they have PFAS-free gear. I'm like, well, hold up. Let's just wait a second. Let's see what the cost is. So they gave us an update, and it was a $9,000 addition on. So so we're asking for another $9,000 so that we can give everybody cancer-causing free gear.
Chief, not to
Yeah.
interrupt you. I think we approved this at our last meeting.
We approved 100,000, but
It's,
I just gave it to
Yeah,
her.
he just kind of gave a heads up.
Yeah.
last
Yeah.
meeting, so
I was
we-
gonna say, yeah, it's more of just like a,
I didn't have the number.
yeah.
perfect.
And
So it's $9,000, and then basically everybody have gear that's hopefully not gonna cause
Perfect.
them.
Okay. Excellent. So what's the pleasure of the board?
I'll move to approve the new cost of, was it $109,000 for the turnout gear for the fire department? With the
Second.
ARPA funds.
Sorry.
Sorry. I don't know if I had to say.
Any questions or discussion?
Should we make it more than 9,000 just in case it's definitely,
My guy right here that does it with me.
Okay.
We got him.
okay, all right.
We've gone through every single step of it. He just got the number, so we're there.
Okay.
We're on. Well,
Perfect. Any other? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
thank you.
So, while we're here, I would accept a motion to move out of order so we can discuss, Chief Lutz's request. For exemption. Perfect. All right.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. So Chief, at the last select board meeting, Chief Lutz had, presented a request for an exception to the lettering of his, squad vehicle.
Cruiser.
Cruiser. And he was going to work with, the assistant town administrator to come up with a few ideas, on an alternative to, the full-size door, emblem. And I see that it is in the packet. An example, or it's on the electronic packet at least. Is there a recommendation, or did you?
No,
come to a consensus?
basically, just, so everybody understands, like, as I spoke in the last meeting, in your letter, it tells you basically what I carry for equipment. That's one of my biggest reasons not to be, I am marked, I have fire plates, everybody recognizes me as that. But that's one of the biggest reasons is the dollar value I carry. As I've gone over in the bottom of the letter, all the towns around us that are not marked. I was at a District 8 meeting yesterday in Holden. There was 23 chiefs, and out of the 23, one of them was marked, and it was marked very similar to just the fender marking. Basically, we didn't go any order. We just put, no change, just my fire plates is my marking. The fire patch, if you look on the bottom, has the town seal. And PJ Chamberlain helped me with these because he's my graphic guy. But the majority of the chiefs, the few that have it, they don't have car one, they have their call sign. So I'm 9C. So they would have whatever their call sign is. So they either have the town seal or the patch. I've seen a really minimal amount with the CFD or whatever their letter is. So we didn't put them in any order. But those are what Angela and I discussed as far as auctions. if you want it, Mark.
Sure. Mr. Chairman, I mean, I know you listed West Boylston and I went by West Boylston and he does have it on his front fender.
He's got a little tiny 6-inch.
Well, wasn't that tiny. And it was visible to me when I was driving by. So all I'm saying is I can't understand why you wouldn't want to have the seal of the town of Clinton. I mean, I don't
Everybody
understand.
knows who I am. I am marked. I have mirrors, I have fireplates.
But
on
what
my-
difference does that make? I mean, it's a town vehicle.
It absolutely is.
Part of the department.
Absolutely is.
I just don't understand why you'd be opposed to it.
Because of what I'm carrying. I prefer not to stand out like a sore thumb.
I mean, we voted 5-0 to have all vehicles with, of course, there are exceptions. We know that rather
Yep.
than get into.
That Chief
I mean,
Point is given the same letter.
I'm okay with that. I still think there should be some indication. I would be in favor of the Clinton Fire Department, number one.
Of the fire patch number
Is
2.
that option 2?
Well, yeah, the
Picture
one I'm
of
looking
the
at,
patch.
the picture.
Sorry.
It has the town
Picture
seal and
would be-
everything. Has a town seal on it.
No, I'm not talking the town seal. I'm talking.
No, no, so,
But the
On the
patch
side.
has the town seal in the middle of it.
That would be my recommendation.
of the options, I agree, I would be in support of number 2, and then if as you mentioned on the call sign,
Yeah.
I would be in support of that versus the car
Yeah.
one example.
Do we have to make a vote to like amend our? So,
Or
in,
to
Or just to approve the exception?
okay, and Mike, these ones that are in the packet, I know you're pretty clear on what you feel about this in general, but you're less concerned with, you're a little bit more, on board with these options here versus like the full.
Trying to be flexible.
Flexible, that's the word. Thank you. But, yeah, I just want to make sure. So, I mean, I know you're not thrilled about it, but if you're, more willing to deal with this versus the other one, then I don't really see, if it accomplishes the same task of getting identification on the vehicle, I don't really see any making an adjustment to the size of the logo, So and forgive me, because I know I wasn't at the last meeting, but it sounds like option number 2, which is the fire patch, and then with the, what was the language you used, Matt, with the
Call sign,
Give them the call sign. I'm 9C. 9 is the town, C is the chief.
So I'll make a motion that we amend the decal to the option number 2 fire patch with the so noted call sign.
I thought I already made a motion.
perfect, so, all right, so we're,
Oh, somebody,
so there was a
What was it?
motion to approve the exemption letter, correct? Is that what?
Well, no, I moved that goes number 2.
Correct. So I would think just for the language, the motion would approve
Well, then
the
I'll
letter.
rescind my motion then.
I didn't.
I didn't realize it was a motion when you said it, so I think you're just trying to be clean.
So a motion, how about, I'll accept a motion to approve the request for exemption letter for the chief's vehicle to fire logo option number 2 as provided.
So moved.
Second.
So the fire department patch with 9C on both front fenders.
Yes.
Correct.
That's easy.
All right, any further discussion? Yep.
So it's in this location where it's showing in the picture, right? Right by
Right in the fender. Yeah,
right by the mirror, right in front of the mirror?
correct.
Okay, okay.
Any other discussion or questions? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you
very much.
Do we want to roll through old business or do we want to jump back to the agenda?
I'd say let's go through the old business.
Old business? All right, under all the new business, the next item, the VFW Buddy Poppy fundraiser at High Street and Church Street intersection. Second. The Clinton Veterans of Foreign Wars Post number 523 is requesting permission for their semi-annual Buddy Poppy Drive to take place at the intersection of High Street and Church Street on Saturday, May 18th, 2024, between the hours of 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. to raise funds for veteran causes.
So move.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Tribute Road Race donation request. The Gales Booster Club is seeking donations to support the annual Tribute Road Race to be held on May 4th, 2024. And there does not appear to be any specific amount.
We've got, yeah, we
Mr.
did 300
Chairman,
last year.
Is it in there?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move that whatever we gave.
It was
last
300
year,
last year.
We'll do the same as this year.
Very
Second.
good.
Second.
Second.
And for clarification, what I looked at was 300. So we'll go with the green sponsor.
Like to take a minute to recognize the nominees for the Tribute Road Race. We have Mr. Robert Bonsi, and we have Mr. and Mrs. Pat Weatherby.
Joel Bates.
Bates.
Joel Bates. Oh, what did I see? The
Bonsi.
Bonsi.
I think you,
Bonsi's picture.
sorry, that was last year.
All right.
Joel Bates and the weather.
I'm trying to,
We're trying to find last.
I looked in the,
We'll redo-
Congratulations for his.
We'll edit that one out. So congratulations, Joel Bates and Deb and Patrick Weatherby. Thank you for the contributions to the hunting community. And all in favor? Aye. Yeah, I shouldn't.
no, I'm sorry. I should have looked in the packet. It's right here.
Cheating. All right, next item on the agenda, the Clinton High School Scholarship Fund donation request. The Clinton High School Scholarship Fund has sent a letter requesting donations for senior scholarships. The Select Board has donated $250 for this cause in the past.
So move.
Second.
Any discussion? There be none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And the next item, Employee Customer Service Survey. The Collins Center for Public Management provided a report of recommendations to enhance customer service among municipal departments, and this was handed to us in a packet.
Mr. Chair,
Sure.
the report was in the packet, but this matrix that kind of just put together just adds a little bit more information, kind of tries to summarize the recommendations and a little bit of things that have been currently working on right now and maybe things that need further discussion or policy from the board. So I don't know if it's something, and board members just got it today, of something that you want to have discussion with today, or if you want to review and discuss the next meeting. So the matrix kind of just outlines the recommendations. The attachment that was put to it, that came with it, were a few examples of some maybe personal cell phone policies, cell phone at work use policies, and some kind of samples of a door sign of kind of what type of information that you'd be looking to have people put on the doors when they're out or they're closed during normal business hours. So those were kind of, I know we talked about previous meetings about just trying to kind of put it all in a little bit of organized perspective for you. So that's what these documents are here.
Very good.
Mr. Chair.
Sure.
Mike, so is everything in this list now, this, in addition to being recommendations, is it fair to say that these are recommendations that your office like agrees with and is looking to implement?
Sure, absolutely. I think by going through this, there's certainly ways that we can get better awareness and communication with the public. Anything that the board is willing to support, definitely behind it. Yep.
Okay. So maybe the easiest thing would be, s- unless somebody has an objection with a line item in this summary, I would say that we're on board with it unless someone has a specific, if someone, as opposed to like going one by one and saying like, we agree with this or don't agree with that, I would say, if, what's ever in here, we agree with unless someone has a specific line item or a specific recommendation that they have issue with for one reason or another, just kind of speak up in the next couple weeks and let everybody know.
Yeah, I agree with you. I would think that as a board, if we were to move either to support the recommendations of the study, and then begin either coming up with a plan to implement. I know as far as like the consistent hours of operation and the lunch coverage, as well as the policy for personal cell phone use. I know that there were a couple of examples provided for that. Do we want to have a policy presented? I personally, for me, I think it would be, if you have a policy that you're supportive of, that you want to present, and then we can either approve or modify or whatever the case may be, versus right now, I'm really not sure what the next step is. 'Cause
Oh,
it just,
okay.
it seems like,
Sure.
do you want us to to just leave it open-ended and discuss it as we go along, or do you want to give a priority as to what we want to see?
Yeah, sure. It's up to the members. I think what Assistant Town Administrator had done some research on getting some examples of what other towns do. So we certainly can put one together if you feel, or if there's something the board sees in these examples that you would like to highlight and throw out there, that's fine. So we can go either way. Doesn't matter.
Mr. Chair.
Sure.
How many, out of curiosity, how many town issued cell phones is there? Like, do we issue a lot of them to?
We don't issue a lot. I mean, this is more trying to gear towards highlighting some comments that were made about personal cell phone use.
No,
So,
I understand
yeah,
it. Just,
yeah.
I seen these policies that it sometimes says you shouldn't be using your personal phone, you should use your town phone. for
Oh,
this. And I
right.
wasn't sure
Yeah,
if
yeah.
they only had one option, in an emergency or something. I guess not an emergency. I was just curious, how many two phone situations we had.
Right, yeah, it is very limited.
Okay.
Yeah, so most people would only have their personal cell phones. We'd have like police, fire, DPW, inspectional services, they would have, if there are people that are out on the road a lot, that would have
Oh.
emergency response, or people that are out on the road a lot would have town cell phones. But most people in administrative roles would not.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, oh, sorry.
Sorry. As opposed to kind of maybe starting with like a policy, I don't know if there might be some like best practices. We can just say, this is kind of what the survey came back, and these are kind of the recommendations. And if it continues to maybe be a problem, create a policy for it. That might just be an alternative to maybe going straight to the policy, just saying like, hey, this would be during working hours, limit to it, or be aware of people coming in, or,
Yeah.
maybe just some like guidance and communication as to like what we're looking to see based on what the results of the survey were. So,
The recommendation by. the
Was it to
company
create a
was the
policy?
Town should develop.
Ah.
use of cell phones.
Gotcha. okay.
In the workplace, delineating appropriate time of use, so,
Well,
until a policy is in
yeah,
place.
just say maybe I guess we don't have to take their recommendation, but we can certainly maybe go along the, hey, this is what we're looking for until the policy is, until we find one that we feel comfortable with. Kind of lunch, and looking at the lunch too, and then
Yeah, I mean,
policy for hours for work and leave time for lunch. I would be curious if, I mean, do other buildings or stay open continuously during the day, or I know some places probably have break for like between 12 and 1:30, the building's closed, or
Yeah, I don't think we have any buildings or departments that close at all. We just try to maintain coverage. And the other buildings, other than town hall, there's more staff to cover.
Mhm.
Town hall, they're individual departments, so there might only be 1 or 2 people departments. So if people are, somebody's on vacation, the person covering is going to be on lunch, well, they would have to close. Or if it's a 1-person department, they'd be closed if they go to a meeting, lunch or something like that. So that's the hard part. It's just the numbers, just not enough employees to keep every office open, 8 hours a day. So.
I mean, when you think about like doctor offices.
yeah, that's what I was
They
thinking.
have on their voicemail, they say
Yeah,
between the hours of, 12 and 1, the office is closed.
right.
And at least what we can do to notify or educate the public that these are the expectations, that if you come up here from 12 to 1 to do business, that office may be closed or it will be closed.
Right. Yeah.
Especially for the individual, the departments with 1 employee rather. So,
That's kind of what I was trying to get at.
Yeah.
Less articulated, but if it's like a public, business hours are 8 to 12, 1:30 to 4, then there leaves a buffer there for people who might be short-staffed, or, I mean, obviously people on vacation, that's just a use case that we just can't really accommodate given the size, but
Right, right. And I think that's the bottom line, is whatever the practice is, to get it out there so that everyone's aware of it. So not closing the whole building, so if people want to pay a bill because they have enough staff to cover, or the clerk's office that have staff to cover. But if there is a 1-person department, they should be consistent when they're taking their lunch, and then be very vocalize that they're closed during that period, so that at least the expectation when people are coming, I know I can go here and here, but I can't go there. So I think that's what the report was trying to say. The hours are important, but more important is that the public knows what those hours are. That's the bigger issue.
I do have some departments that are doing that, and we've updated the website. Like if they have office hours and then they're out on inspection, that's now noted. And if they're doing permits, like that's noted when they're closed. So it's just trying to make sure everybody is doing that. And I think maybe we should, if you want us to, on the homepage, it says that town hall's open 8 to 4. I don't know if you want us to also put, please see individual department for, varied out,
yeah. I think I agree.
variations or
Yeah,
whatever the
good.
wording would be.
Yeah, I did put something similar on the feedback, of like, I think it's just like clear, I mean, I guess I would, if the expectation is from 8 to 4, I think the public would expect it to be open at any point during 8 to 4, not to necessarily like have to guess when lunch is from 1 to, they don't know that there's 1 person in that department. They just need to do X, Y, and Z. So if we kind of put the asterisks in there that says, be sure to check that individual department to ensure that they're open until we can kind of wrap our hands around it, maybe.
Right.
Maybe wrap our arms around.
yeah, I
it.
think like so for the departments that have 2 employees, would we then, would the policy lay out what time they take their lunch so that office doesn't close? Or would it be,
Wouldn't we?
well, that's what I'm asking.
No, I know. I'm just like agreeing. I don't know why we wouldn't. If there's a department that has 2 resources, why wouldn't they stagger their lunches to make the office available to the public more? It just seems,
Right, so I mean, hypothetically, you could have somebody taking their lunch at 11 a.m. and someone taking their lunch. Right, so that's where I'm looking at,
yeah.
I mean,
Well,
taking a lunch after you get
would
to
it,
work 3.
Mike, would it help you if like the first thing we do is like, as a board, we just like endorse the recommendations and like maybe we can start with that, so at least you have like a direction from us. So just to start, I just want to make a motion that the select board endorse the findings in the Collins Center and authorize the town administrator to implement the recommendations.
Second.
Any discussion? There be none, all in favor?
Aye. All right, so at least we get that out of the way. But what I'm thinking here, and you guys let me know if this is crazy or not, but I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So 1 being hours of operation, 2, procedure to require departments to provide designated coverage, 3, policy for use of cell phones, workplace, procure a new phone system, and improve the webpage. So that's 5 kind of like sub goals that are recommended. I think that implementing these findings would cover our goal number 4 that we have for town goals. Goal number 4 is the town government is accountable, transparent, centralized, knowledgeable, and dedicated to customer service. So I would say that the implementation of these findings would basically cover Mike's office for like this goal for the year. Like this would be what that goal would focus on, would be this. And then what we can do, if the board agrees, is in future meetings, we can give Mike a heads up and say, all right, at the next meeting, Mike, we want to discuss your plan for implementing the hours of operation. And then we'll have time reserved at that meeting. We can hear what Mike wants to do. We can give him feedback and ask questions about it. And then maybe we do one of those, there's 5 little groups, and maybe we just reserve time in each meeting for each of those sections of the implementation. It's just an idea.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I think there's some of them that are already in process. I would. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what your thought on a timeline would be for the ones that you have highlighted as for the select board for policy. Do you want to present those at the next meeting, like come up with a recommendation? And then at least at that point, if you present with something, then we can, if we agree on modifications or whatever the case may be, then when we approve it, then essentially that policy would come in effect.
Right.
Versus, just to be more efficient with the time, because some of these we could make progress on immediately, very quickly, and some are ongoing. So, I mean, personally, I would like to see obviously the consistent hours of operation and lunch coverage, as well as the cell phone use policy. The uniform and consistent office door sign when office closed. I mean, those are the 4 that they look to be.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, 3. Those are the 3 that appear to be.
Yeah, those are the three big ones, but definitely we can come up with recommendations. We have the examples now, so we can craft something that would work. And I'd like to meet with department heads about the lunch coverage and hours and, just the one in this building here, and see, maybe come up with a plan that we can get everybody to get on board.
So as far as one of being that we just, the recommendation was made to endorse this, one of the recommendations was the policy of people working through their lunch. So is that something right now, it's safe to say that the board endorses that practice is no longer going to be permitted?
What is the expectation is that would be part of that vote.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I don't want I don't think we need, I don't know if we need to put like the board to a vote, but I mean, personally, I
Do you, if, would that be a motion in itself?
I mean, Mr. Chairman, why don't we just let Michael, and now that this, the original policy's gone through, like, work this through, let's see how it, it all, rather than trying to restrictions already and,
Well, that's a practice that was recommended that it ends. So
to Mary Rose's point though, maybe we'll, the next time we meet on that, Mike will just kind of like present us with, this is how we want to move forward on the hours of operation. Possibly, I don't know if would it be fair to ask you guys to research some existing policies that may be similar, or is that something that that the board members should do? Because I mean, it says on here, for the policy, it's under the select board. So I don't know, is the assumption there that like we're doing that research ourselves, or is it just that like we're asking Mike's office to come up with some ideas for a policy and we just make the final like approval of the policy? Right, I definitely have to approve it, but I just didn't know if.
not that we're creating, but that, so when I was,
Sorry, are we talking about eating through lunch? We're just,
that seemed to go,
is that what you're
Oh,
talking about?
that is hours of, I'm sorry, I said hours of operation, I was including that into this whole, the going through the.
I mean,
lunch thing.
To me, the eating through lunch is like more of a labor law. And I don't know what HR has weighed in on that or
Right.
like, to me, the labor law supersedes any policy we would make. So it'd be good to kind of,
but the practice is happening right.
right, so how do we communicate that,
well, I think that's what.
that you
I-
cannot work continuously for 8 hours?
I mean, I just see it as that, we accepted that what was presented to us, I think through Ed's motion. And now I think it just gives Michael an opportunity to sit down with the department heads and put this all kind of in place of how this policy came through the Collins report and kind of set it in motion, and then Michael come back to us and let us know how things are. I mean, that's how I perceive it.
But that
I
is
mean,
not on here.
Right.
So on this initial pass of it, I don't see anything about that, which to me, like I said, is probably
Well,
kind of opens us up to some liability, I think. Having been through this issue before with another employer, it would be good to correct this.
I agree. I see them as two separate topics. One topic is coming up with hours of operation with a lunch schedule. The other topic is the board stating that the practice of eating through lunch or banking your lunch ends. Now,
I would like it to end.
so then make the motion.
I mean, fine, I'll make a motion that the practice of eating through lunch for town employees is ended. Sorry, wasn't a better motion, but.
No, is there a second?
I'm not gonna second something that's like, I don't have the details to it, just to,
Well,
if someone can look into what's the
So-
labor, like,
so-
how long do we need to give them? Is it a half an hour, an hour?
So some people work an 8-hour shift.
Yeah,
And take an hour for lunch. And then some people work 7 hours and they technically have their lunch while they work.
yeah,
So
it's.
people are
But I don't
working
think-
40-hour shifts, or people are working 35-hour shifts. So it's not consistent. There's a few people that are doing 35 hours. So they come in either an hour late or an hour early,
right, but
and they don't
is
take
working
lunch.
continuously for 7 hours
Right.
against the law?
Yeah, I thought that.
6 hours.
I thought that-
6 hours? Okay, that's what I thought. 6 hours is the threshold.
Right,
And I had originally, I think one of my recommendations was like, find out why these people are eating, like, yeah, does the schedule not work? Like, are they looking for some type of reduction in hours because they have to?
They just
Well,
wanna
that's what I
get
mean,
out,
like,
just wanna get out.
do they need like a reduction in hours on their schedule? I don't know what the rationale is for them doing it. That would probably be good, just to understand why they're doing it. They just, why they need to leave an hour early or if that's part of it, but I do understand that 7 hours into 8 hours without a lunch break is not appropriate.
Again, the Collins Center made a recommendation that nobody should be eating through working through their lunch and eating at their desk. The labor policy, I think that's something completely different. If we're saying what Ed's motion would be is you are no longer permitted to eat, to work through your lunch or eat at your desk or bank your lunch, whatever the case may be. I don't, the consultant has met with the department heads, I think no less than 3 times. And it sounds like now we want to go back and, the recommendation is to talk to the department heads a 4th time to find out, well, why this is happening. When the Collins Center report, this was a recommendation.
Yeah,
I mean, do we want to, are we going to continue to allow people to work through their lunch and or eat at their desk while they are working? That's where the focus that I kind of raised was. As far as labor laws go, absolutely, but it's kind of.
yeah, I think I guess my only question is, I don't know why this one specific observation is being kind of thrust ahead of everything else, but I don't have a problem with it. I think we would eventually get to that place where we would communicate that this practice was no longer going to be acceptable. But so that, I guess I don't understand why we're like talking about it like head and shoulders above everything else. But that being said, I still stand by the motion. I think it's still obvious that this is a practice that should end. The Collins Center seemed to be on board with that idea. They didn't think that was an appropriate practice. If anything else, for the fact that you're stating that you're working so many hours straight without taking the breaks that you're supposed to be taking per labor laws. So, yeah.
I mean, I think just to kind of point one thing at your question as to why this is being put forth. I mean, that practice puts the town in a position of financial liability.
Okay.
And that's what was discussed during the Collins Center's the meeting.
Right.
So.
Is that in here anywhere? Because I see that it's the town hall
No.
consistent hours of operation and lunch coverage
It's in the
It's in the actual recommendation.
in the
actual report.
the actual report. Okay, so it's not in the summary right here. Understood.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I think we would be making a mistake by not ending that practice immediately, because I never liked it. I've heard about it. I didn't think it was appropriate then. And now when we have an independent consultant come in and say the same thing, I don't know what more information we want to get on this subject. I think we have the feedback from consultant. They also don't think that it's a good practice. So I stand by my motion and.
I'll second.
Second, any discussion or questions?
I have,
Sure.
is this a general occurrence? I mean, are a lot of people doing that?
I
Eating
think
through
there's a few.
banking?
Yeah, it's not pervasive, but there are a few instances where it's happening.
Now, when you say banking, how much time have people accrued? Like, I would assume it would be time off.
Well,
They would want to take, if they're sitting, eating through their lunch and they're banking that time, they're going to use it to take their time off.
Yeah,
correct?
no, they're not banking it. What they're doing is they're leaving early in the day.
Well, same different.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Same different.
Yeah,
So in other words, it's for an alternative. So,
Right.
so do they say to the supervisor, it's because my child has a doctor's appointment, so it's at a date, so could I sit and eat my lunch today so I could leave the half hour early to take my daughter to a doctor's appointment?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just trying to figure this out. I mean, why are they doing this?
Right. I
Like, is
think
it regular and
a
consistent?
regular,
Yeah,
regular.
versus like,
I don't think it's
I mean, I think we can
a
offer
particular
flexibility.
reason. I think
Right.
it's a regular schedule.
And I mean, and the consultant noted this in one of the meetings, I think, because the people, they'll say, well, I work through my lunch. But then when they're pressed, they eat their lunch, but they're like, oh, well, I eat it really fast. Well, if you're eating your lunch, you're taking lunch. That's, it's the end of it. So I like this thing, like, oh, I'm just eating fast when I eat my lunch. And then that means that I really didn't take lunch. And so therefore I can like leave work early. I think it's just not a good practice.
Mr. Chair, I think what the Collins Center is saying is inconsistent hours of work, lunch hours, and work schedule. And I think we're trying to establish some consistency here. I don't think we're trying to be inflexible. If someone has a extenuating circumstance, I'm sure they can work with their managers. But it says, they're listing 3 or 4 different options, and I don't think that's really what we're looking for as far as a model of how town hall is going to operate. It's more trying to establish some consistency within that consistent system. We can be flexible and deal with situations that come up. But yeah, if we're talking, some staff don't take lunch, they leave early. Others allowed to eat lunch at the desk and leave early. Some come in later, take a shorter lunch. It's clear that some employees are receiving with paid lunchtime, others are not. So I just think we need to clean this up because it just seems like the cords are getting tangled.
Yeah, and I think, to select person Dicko's point, like if somebody has if there's an appointment that someone has to bring their child to, there's paid time off for most employees. And if an employee doesn't have benefits of the PTO, I'm sure that there's something they can work out with their schedule to be flexible on. But if I don't take my lunch Monday through Thursday, then I don't think that I should be permitted to leave Friday, whether it's 2 hours or 4 hours early, because, well, I didn't take my lunch all week.
Right.
Any further discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Very good. So I think that wraps up the old and new business. And then, so we're going back to the traffic committee board of recommendations. I could just kind of highlight through parking on Church Street in front of Clinton Elementary School. This would be on the southbound side of Church Street, if that makes sense, or so on the side of the street with the superintendent's building. There would be no parking permitted on that side of the street. This was supported unanimously by the traffic committee.
Mr. Chair, to be clear, that's all the time, not just a term thing.
All the time, and they're gonna there'll be signs installed, and they'll also use paint, whether it's on the curb or the side to
like
notify
all the time on the weekends
all the time.
across.
The-
Is there?
Why would
weekend
they
issue?
with
I
the
know, I've
weekends?
always
Yeah, I
parked
mean-
there on the weekends.
Because of it
And I-
narrows the roadway, and then it creates blind spots.
According to the police and fire chief.
According to this school committee recommendation, the school committee member that recommended it, and then as I mentioned, everybody was in complete support of it.
So the school committee recommended it, and we want to shut it down on the weekends when there's no school.
There's no parking on the side of Church Street on that side. Yes.
I just feel that's unnecessary. Unless the police and fire department have an issue with it, I don't see why we should shut it down all the time.
The police and fire were in support of shutting it down.
Okay, that's different.
Well, no, so the board made the recommendation. They're both on the board.
Okay, can we back up? Who's on the traffic committee?
Fire chief, police chief, DPW superintendent, select board member, and there's a citizen representative, Jim Boudry.
Okay,
And
so not far from downtown where we constantly hear there's limited parking. Everyone agrees that we should shut this down 7 days a week.
because of the hazard, correct?
I have to be honest with you, I agree with Julie. I can see it during the 5 days during the school, but I don't, we see the necessity on the weekend. I would vote, that issue I would vote against. It's just me.
It's not line for parking now, is it?
It is not. And when vehicles are parked on both sides, vehicles are traveling up the center line. So if we want to go through individually or
It's a la carte. Why don't we go through and see which ones are sticking points and pull those out and do them?
sounds good. 15-minute parking on certain areas of High Street. So the police chief is gonna, would like to discuss establishing 15-minute parking in certain areas. This was, an ongoing discussion. 20-mile-an-hour speed limit on High Street. The police chief would like to discuss a proposal to make a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit on High Street. This was actually 25 miles an hour, correct?
Right, yeah. So the Superintendent of Public Works brought up a point that there was a law passed to allow communities to establish that in order to change the speed limit, there's a whole state mass highway process, mass DOT process to go through. But in 2016, there was a law passed with local option to allow in congested areas or business districts to allow the municipality to set their own speed limits as low as 25 miles per hour. So 25 was the benchmark, not 20. And it says as adopted by the town, but by reading the statute, adoption is by the select board. So it's not town meeting, so the board can do it whenever you feel appropriate to do that. So I think certainly there was support in the traffic committee to try to slow traffic down on High Street. But I think if we do 20, we probably have to go through the big process to do 20, but the board could do 21. The only thing which I would do, I didn't talk to town council. I don't know if the board would have to officially adopt this section and then vote to change the speed limit up for High Street. So that might be just another step that you might have to do. But it was section 193 from chapter 218 of the Acts of 2016. So we can
2006 or 16?
yeah, it was chapter 193 from chapter 218 from the Acts of 2016. So, yeah.
We can get that out of the way right now, right?
Yeah, I move that we adopt section 193, chapter 218 of the Acts of 2016.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Removal or relocation of crosswalk on Mechanic Street. The police chief would like to discuss the elimination or relocation of the crosswalk on Mechanic Street behind the Clinton Police Station near the Russian Icon Museum. This would be the crosswalk that's right at the wall. The reasoning was the line of sight for vehicles traveling around that corner can make it difficult to see the pedestrians. And then just however many, maybe 100 feet further up, there's a crosswalk directly across from the stairs up to the Peninsula Park. So signage would, the recommendation was to put sign notifying that this is here's the crosswalk, and then removing the crosswalk that's further up. Yeah, so keep going.
So this one,
Where?
this one here by the P.
Yeah, so right after, so right there on the left-hand side, right where it says mechanic.
Yeah.
Further north.
Oh, that.
Yeah,
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 yeah.
so right next to the.
Sidewalk ends at the
Yeah,
stone
yeah, yeah,
wall,
okay.
and then the crosswalk comes across to the Icon Museum.
Yep.
So
We're getting
but
rid
it's
of
kind
that.
of a blind
That's
spot
correct.
there.
Well, that's the recommendation, and then you have the one that's further up. Exactly. That would be
Yeah.
the designated parking, excuse me, designated crosswalk.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. stop sign on Maple Street at the intersection of Washington Street. So the resident, on Washington Street sent a letter of expressing concern about the speed of vehicles traveling down Main Street onto Washington Street. She's requesting a stop sign, Maple Street, and no parking at the corners of that intersection. So there's a stop line there, but there is not a stop sign. So the recommendation was to install a stop sign of leaving Maple Street onto Washington Street and to mark the area at that intersection so vehicles would not park. Right now they're parking like on the sidewalk directly in that T. Right. Stop sign on Chestnut Street at the intersection of Union Street. This was so this is at the police station. So traveling up Chestnut Street at that intersection on Union and Chestnut.
Going north that way, so which on the busy road, so it's.
So-
Right in front of the police department?
Correct. So the recommendation was not to fulfill the request because of concerns of traffic piling up, whether it's leaving the Church Street, Chestnut Street intersection heading towards Union Street. And they talked also about putting up, there was talk of putting a sign, crosswalk sign, so people would know that there's a pedestrian crosswalk there. So that one was not recommended. Handicap parking on Church Street. So down below the item office, there's one parking space that's directly in front of the municipal parking sign on Church. And the recommendation was to make that a handicap parking sign, because of the grade of the road would be suitable to meet the needs of the handicap parking space. And that recommendation was approved, was unanimously supported. So if you drive down there, you'll see right now there's that big red sign. There's one spot that would become a designated handicap parking spot.
The request was to be a little further towards High Street, but I think the committee felt that that was a hill there, that a handicap parking probably wouldn't be conducive to somebody that would need it at that, on that gradient. So a little further down, it levels off a little bit by the municipal lot.
Isn't there a handicap spot right in front of the old timer?
Yes, there is.
Gradients like that?
Yeah.
And so it'd be across the street was where the place of work is. The next, handicap parking on Stone Street. This was a request from a resident who's looking to establish a handicap parking sign in front of the residence. This had been brought to the traffic committee previously, and the request was not supported by the traffic committee.
Mr. Chair, to be
Sure.
clear, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's a long-standing policy of the traffic committee not to grant individual handicap parking spots. So this is standing with policy, not going against it.
That is correct.
There has been numerous, you're right, there have been numerous requests in the past just to have spaces for people, and the committee has taken a position not to.
I want to thank the people at 159 Grove Street for taking their illegal handicap sign out. I'm guessing it's because they're moving, because the house is for sale, so wherever they plop it down next will also be illegal. We rejected that one, they just took it upon themselves, so. I'll see it. I'll see where you are.
Very good. The next traffic light at Green Street and Chestnut Street, which is currently only activated when a pedestrian is crossing the street. This request was not supported by the traffic committee.
Again, that's an ongoing issue that comes up probably once a year, and it's the people from Green Street, concerned about traffic backing up. But the other concern is the main road of traffic by having kind of intermittent stopping, so.
So I have a question. A full traffic light was put in there versus just like a pedestrian crossing light. What was the rationale behind that? Like if we're using it for just pedestrians, it feels like there's just other options out there than a full blown.
Yeah, that was
Traffic
during
light.
the development of that property of the mills down there for the housing development. So I think it went through the planning board, and there was, developer was willing to put pay to put a light in. So I guess it was put in with the event that there might, have a problem in the future, that it would already be paid for to be installed, but it was only going to be flashing unless it needed to be activated. So I think that's initially knowing there were a number of units being planned for there by putting it in case it was needed in the future.
I have another question, but we can.
Sure.
For the traffic committee, I guess, but.
All right, so why don't we,
Meeting. The next meeting.
all right, let's take a look at, so the ones that the traffic committee was in support of.
I can't tell which ones were support, like some say would like to discuss, like, is
Yeah.
that just an open to, like, is that approved to
I think
discuss?
that's cut and paste from the traffic committee agenda,
Oh,
and it was discussed at the traffic committee. Correct me if I'm wrong, I wasn't.
That's correct.
so the assumption is that even though based on what it's worded, these are all things that the traffic committee is looking to have approved.
Not necessarily, so it was, these are items that were discussed. And
Okay.
then, so the items that, some were ongoing, the 15-minute parking on certain areas of High Street.
Okay,
They
gotcha.
were doing a little more work on that one. And then the ones that were not recommended were the handicap
Parking on
handicap
Stone Street?
parking on Stone Street
Okay.
and the traffic light at Green Street and Chestnut Street. Those were not recommended. And then the ones that were recommended, we have the parking on Church Street in front of Clinton Elementary School. We have the 20-mile-an-hour speed limit on High Street, which was modified to 25 miles per hour on High Street. The removal or relocation of crosswalk on Mechanic Street. The stop sign on Maple Street at intersection of Washington Street. I'm sorry, I skipped that one too. This Chestnut Street was not recommended.
Mhm.
The handicap parking on Church Street was recommended. So that was,
Yeah, and even, I think, with the traffic committee is just a review board to recommend to the select board. So we do like to let the members know all the issues that come before
Okay,
them.
I
to
just-
know what they're
Okay.
discussing.
I was just reading this and couldn't understand, couldn't follow. Thank you for clarifying.
So everything in this packet is their recommendation, though, right?
No.
no. So,
Then,
so what, maybe
Can we
going
just go through
forward, we
each one
could.
and say recommended, not recommended?
Absolutely,
Make it
absolutely. So,
Second.
item number 1, parking on Church Street in front of Clinton Elementary School was recommended by the traffic committee. What is the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion that we do it 5 days a week during the school and not on the weekends.
I'll second that.
Yeah.
Okay, any discussion? I'm not sure what changes with pedestrian safety on weekends. When you have vehicles parked on both sides, you have the professionals of police chief and the fire chief who are both supportive of the recommendation on not having parking on both sides is to essentially change the flow of traffic. But that's that.
This reads the Clinton Public School Safety Committee discussed this. It was their recommendation and that it was to ease congestion taking place during student drop off and pickup. So what, I don't know what additional information you have on this, but I'm just going off of what's presented here, and what's presented here makes total sense just to only enforce this when there's student drop off and pickup on Monday through Friday.
Because that part of the street is not lined for parking at this time. When cars park, they're parking with half of their vehicle in the street.
Well, all right, then they can bring it up again. If they don't like our decision, we can discuss it again. Because they're not even the ones driving this. This is the Clinton Public School Safety Committee is the one.
It's no different than having a resident bring something, a concern to the traffic committee. The traffic committee heard the concerns, the traffic committee discussed the concerns, the traffic committee made a recommendation to,
And the board amended the recommendation.
no, the board did not amend their
No,
recommendation.
We just did right now.
No, the traffic committee recommended that there is no parking on the south side of Church Street, 7 days a week, the end.
And we just changed it to
No,
5.
You
no,
just
we're
changed it to-
suggesting they change it to
Correct.
5. They're recommending 7, and Mary's motion is saying she
Change it
wants
to
to
5.
amend it to 5 because
That's right. We
Yeah.
have that right. I mean, we don't have to agree with
Right.
anything the traffic committee says.
That's what I'm saying.
And
Like,
in this case, I don't agree.
And
with
I
them.
think I would agree with Mary because I think it originally came up as a issue with the congestion with the school, and I would rather wait before shutting it down on the weekends until, I mean, like you said, we could revisit this if necessary, but I think right now, 5 days a week is sufficient.
Right, and
Not everyone would agree.
my only point was that pedestrian safety is not a 5-day-a-week thing. So the traffic committee, including the professionals, chief of police and fire chief, agreed that there's a legitimate safety hazard, and that's why they recommended, that's why they approved, it was or supported a 7-day shutdown. If you want to go against what that was, what was recommended, that's up to you, and that's the motion, so that's fine. But the end,
okay.
all right, so. No, well, I mean, it's professional a la carte. You can choose one.
Well, I think the argument is that there's less cars parking down there on the weekends. So there is not the exact same scenario as there is Monday through Friday. And even in the evenings, there are less people there to obstruct this line of sight and just trying not to overstretch here. That's my position, so I will vote accordingly.
Understood, and it is not lined for parking in this time, as it ever.
Mr. Chairman, I move for a vote.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Hey, here we go. All right, we already approved the 20-mile-an-hour speed limit.
No, we adopted the section one
Oh,
ninety-three, chapter
so we
218 of the
adopted-
Acts of
okay, so-
2015. So now we can adopt it, the 25 miles an hour. And I will proudly move that we adopt 25-mile-an-hour speed limit on High Street that's between Water and Union. Water and Union Streets.
Second.
Water.
Wait a minute. What happened to the 15-minute parking?
They're still looking at,
There-
that's a,
Yeah, well, that's,
Just
that's,
discussion.
yeah, that's,
Yeah.
Chief's looking at that one still.
yeah, so
So we're not-
we're not doing it.
Yeah,
ourselves.
they'd like to talk to some merchants and see where would be the
Right.
best locations.
So basically, you're just tabling it.
Yeah, the chief is going to do further
Right.
review, the police chief.
All right, so back to the 20, so that was a motion between
Am I right? I got my,
Union
Hands right.
and Water.
does that work? That's
Second.
what we're looking for, right?
Well, so technically, it's anything that's deemed congested or commercial. I forget the.
Where's the downtown district go?
Right, but I think you would have to,
What is it now, 30?
probably would need to enumerate which streets. Because then notice has to go to Mass Highway. So it would have to be a street, so it wouldn't probably be a region, it would be more kind of streets, but
So High Street.
So it has to be the entirety of High Street?
yeah, it says that the cities or towns can set reasonable and proper speed on municipally owned streets within thickly settled or business districts at 25
Okay.
mile.
I was gonna say, speed limits change on the streets.
So. we-
Okay, so
we-
just specify
High Street,
between.
So you
Union
could
and
do
Water.
High Street, and if you want to do Church Street as well, to do. both.
so the question was,
We going down to
Can we-
Lancaster or?
No, I think you could do a portion. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. If you just want to do a portion or the whole street, you can do either one.
I think proportions.
I mean, the only thing I would say is, again, on the weekends when there's youth activities, especially during football season, and you have cars parked both sides, it's probably not a bad idea to have something at 25 miles an hour down to Allen Street.
I'll withdraw my motion and move that we set a speed limit of 25 miles an hour on High Street from Allen Street to Union Street, from Church Street from Main Street to, what's that go up to? Chestnut?
Chestnut. Yeah.
So we're gonna,
Or I guess, well, it could go all the way up the hill, I guess.
do you think you guys could maybe go back to the traffic committee and
We'll finish it.
reorganize here?
No.
Because, I mean, I understand things are happening, I mean, similar to the school, that happening at Fullerfield Parks and Rec, but what is that, like 6 days?
Yeah, I don't
How
think any-
often is that being used?
If the 5 miles an hour is costing you that much, then you should
Sure.
leave earlier.
So you gonna stick with the initial?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so we're
So
going,
25 miles an hour, the entirety of High Street
Nope, to Allen Street.
from Union?
Union.
Yep.
Union to Allen. And of Church Street from Main Street to Chestnut.
Why don't, well, do you want to go up the hill?
Sure.
All of, the entirety of Church Street.
Is there a second?
All right. Bunch of traffic scofflaws here. Speeders.
All
right.
right, I move to set the speed limit on High Street between Union and Water Street at 25 miles per hour, and then on Church Street between Chestnut and Main Street at 25 miles per hour.
Okay.
All right, third time.
Second.
Oh.
Is that, how different is that from what you
Yeah.
just?
It just doesn't go all the, just,
Okay.
the only change is that High Street doesn't go all the way to Allen. It's now still 30.
Okay. I seconded it.
I mean, slow down if you see bikes.
Any
and
discussion?
bike lane.
Mr. Chair, I want to thank the traffic committee, Chief Coyne and the Clinton Police Department for their leadership on this. I have no doubt that this is going to make High Street and the business district a better place to live, work, and enjoy yourself.
So
So is there further discussion or questions or?
just one for this, so Julie, is the 15-minute?
Hold on. We
Okay,
haven't-
we haven't get into that yet.
We haven't
We're
opened.
bouncing around so much.
Yeah.
I haven't skipped that.
We have,
That's an ongoing discussion that is, we're not ready to vote on, so it's taped.
all right, all in
So-
favor of the High Street
Speed limit
30 and
reduction.
25 mile, yes. thank you.
Aye.
All in favor.
Aye.
Okay. So 15-minute parking is ongoing. That's being investigated.
We need more information before.
Okay?
Yeah, did he indicate
The
like what?
chief's looking into it.
Yeah, no, he's gonna check.
Who's the
purchase.
All right. Was painful. Town administrator report.
Dude, we didn't get all of them, no.
Hey, we
Not even halfway done.
No, I'm gonna.
We just do
bang
these
out the
all
rest of these.
together, yeah. do them all together.
Mr. Chair, I move that we adopt the traffic committee recommendations for the crosswalk on Mechanic Street, for the stop sign on Maple Street at Washington Street, and for handicap parking on Church Street.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Now we're good. Town administrator report.
Okay, Mr. Chair, just a couple of quick items. I know we have a guest for our executive session, so I will just be brief.
Oh, jeez.
Just,
Sorry.
Go fast.
yeah,
Oh my God. What have you brought about food? for your-
So just want to give the update to the board. We did get some pricing for the Sislek property for the barn, probably with a demolition and some environmental review prior to that. prior town meeting warrant article would be around $25,000. So something that if the board wants to consider for that. Secondly, just asking if the board would be willing to open up the warrant tonight, just formally open it so we can put a notice to the public and to departments. Some departments have submitted warrants with their budget, but just formally say we're going to have it open in the deadline just so we can start focusing on town meeting now as well too. So if it's open tonight, I don't know if you wanted 3 weeks or 4 weeks or how long, probably 3 weeks and then you can review it at the April 20th meeting. Fine, maybe.
April 17th? So would the deadline be on the 17th? I have us meeting on the 17th, not the 20th. Am I looking at the wrong here?
Well, we could, even if you want to do that Friday, yeah.
Friday the 12th?
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, I move that we open the warrant for the 2024 town meeting and set a deadline for proposed warrant articles for 5 o'clock on Friday, April 12th.
Great, thank you. That gives us time to get the draft to the.
April?
Is there a motion?
Sorry, what
I
was it?
moved. I need a second.
I'll second.
Sorry, can we just go over those dates again? What,
We're gonna open it tonight. and
Tonight,
close it on the 12th
April
at 5
12th.
o'clock.
Yeah, April 20th.
April
Yeah,
20th?
yeah.
Hold on.
12, April 12th.
Am I wrong? We're meeting
April
on the
12th,
17th,
because
right?
we're meeting on April 7th, Wednesday, April 17th.
Oh, I thought it was the following week. Okay, you're right.
So do you want to go, you want to bump
No.
that to May? That takes us to May then.
What's the first
May
first
1.
Wednesday in,
First Wednesday in May is May 1st.
no, first Wednesday in April?
Is
the
April
3rd.
3rd.
Okay, so 3rd and 17 is when we're meeting.
Yeah, yeah. I thought for some reason in my head it was the 20th. So yep, so I think that would be perfect because the board can always add
Yeah.
things whenever you want, but it's just really giving kind of pushing people to get all their issues in so the board can do a review. As I'm sure it would be that 17th and then the next meeting before it's finalized. And then it has to go to the finance committee as well. So, yep, so that'd be great. So before 12.
Yep.
And then the board can review it on the 17th. Thank you.
So we have a second. Any further discussion or questions? There being none, all in favor? Aye. Any other reports?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Just a couple other quick things. Human Resources did find another firm who actually did the marketing for the downtown project that they're doing municipal recruiting. So they're providing a proposal this week for the treasurer collector vacancy. So hopefully we can get someone that has some ties in around the state that can try to do some recruiting for us. So we're moving forward on that. The e-permitting software implementation has started. So that kickoff has taken place and looking to get something, I think it was maybe a 3 or 4 month time frame, I think, depending.
To 6 months though, I think.
Yeah, I think they said overall would be 6 months, but with the size of our community, they could do something by 3 to 4 months if we can get departments on our side to get the information to them that they need so we can get it started. The other technology upgrades are ongoing. Their target date is to have everything up and running in the cloud on July 1st. So the unions of police and fire have agreed. They have received notice about the ARPA pay and they've agreed to proceed with distribution. So that will go forward now to have checks issued to all the employees approved by the board. And last thing is just a couple people had sent me the notice that there was an organization that was doing safe towns in Massachusetts, and Clinton got a #1 ranking on their criteria. Clinton was #1 safest town in Massachusetts. So I thought,
And that's
that was
before we lowered the speed limit.
yeah. So I thought that was kind of neat. So thank you.
Yeah, congratulations. Thank you, everyone, for making that possible. The town administrator FY 24 goals.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, if I could, Mr. Chair, just, I passed out tonight, just kind of a refresh of what the board wanted to do, the goals from last year, and then add 2 more to it. So the goals from last year are on there, and then the other 2 on the second page. But just kind of asking if there's any feedback on kind of specific objectives for the new 2 issues. Obviously, the technology one, we're doing a ton on technology this year. So if there's anything beyond what we're working on, if you kind of wanted to give some feedback on that.
I can
And then
give you
the
some feedback right
beautification.
now, Mike, on the beautification on goal number 7. It's something I've been talking about for like 4 or 5 years now. And I would like to, on High Street, all the pathways from the parking lots onto High Street. I've been trying to talk to Phil to see if he can talk with the property owner, where Abishans is. So right now, Abishans uses a portion of that space to store some stuff. But I don't see any reason why we can't just do a little bit of landscaping there, put a little bit of lighting, put some sort of a walking path, maybe a couple picnic tables. And just so the transition from the St. John's parking lot over to High Street is just a little bit pleasing. And also coming from the municipal lot, Walnut Street, going down the back stairs and coming out that way. Is there anything we can do to just improve that pathway? And then lastly, the path from the St. John's parking lot where it is right now, if you go along the church, there's a set of steps that goes up and it comes up like, kind of like behind Abishans and the Strand and goes on to High Street. Same thing. Is there simple things we can work with the church just to kind of improve the lighting and just decorate it a little bit to make it look nice so that you kind of feel like you're going from a parking lot to a well-lit path onto High Street and you go down those paths now, you kind of feel like you're dodging in between back alleys and stuff. And it's just not very pleasing. So that's something that I wish that we could take a look at doing. So, I mean, I'll send it to you in an email, but I just had that on the back of my head because I've been talking about doing it for a long time.
Yeah, no, thank you. That's helpful because if we're going down the road of just like clean up beautification or enhance,
Yeah.
enhance property enhancement. So that's helpful. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a great point. And I think, as you just mentioned, I think to be able to look at the cleanup side of it and the enhancement side of it.
Yeah.
That's a great point.
Yeah, I don't know if it's on your list, but that gateway corner where we talk about water and High Street, where the
Gene.
Jeans is, there's a bunch of something that says Town of Clinton on it.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know why, they've been there for maybe a couple years.
Yeah, those were used during COVID around High Street and they're being stored down there. So we
Okay,
could probably
maybe we could
find a better place to store them.
And
Yeah.
maybe some flowers on the kitty corner across at that little park. Yeah, exactly. I'm sure we can think of brainstorm some more too, but
And combating the
the graffiti. Yeah,
right? And
Finally.
the train bridge.
Yeah.
Like that
see-
whole.
this list could grow fast.
I still want to do something about those train bridges and all the graffiti on them. Just
No, I think I agree with you. Like, I think there's so much potential there. I've seen, but I know we don't, or do we not own them? Is that part of the problem?
I mean, it could,
I know at least on those, I know Mr. Duffy's putting in a Safe Routes grant that's coming up. And one of the aspects is we wanted to at least do that lighting that we've been talking about, at least under the train bridges to get some more lighting in there to kind of brighten that up as well too. And I know we talked about painting them and doing other things, but at least the lighting would be a big help.
is there a possibility of maybe trying to identify a company that maybe paints train bridges that has experience in that, if there's any any specifications that are required, just to get a ballpark on what it would cost?
I think they
Sorry,
did
Sorry,
this.
didn't you do a bunch of research on this, Sean?
Without getting too far in the weeds, there are different theories on how to handle graffiti. sometimes an argument has been made that if you give them a blank canvas, they're going to exploit it. And sometimes a more a solution that is longer lasting is actually to mural it yourself, because there's this a respect for other artists that they, if you're just painting a Battleship Gray or whatever, that's blank chalkboard. If you put up a mural, they respect the artist there and are less likely. These are theories. This is pre-pandemic. We had some the people from Worcester, is it Powwow? They do a mural festival out there. They came out and they loved what we had to offer them. It's just the issue was, and it could be open to anybody. The issue was, as Ed mentioned, we don't own them, which I think they'd be okay with us painting on them, but to get them down to a surface, because they've been painted so many times, to get them down to a surface where it would actually be where it would be something that would stick, would be costly. Whether we want to look into that remains to be seen. But if you look at them, you can see it's inches of layers of paint over the years, and what condition it's in after you get under that, I don't know. I mean, it's something I'd love to look into, but it's like many things, more complicated than it appears at first view.
And I think it was like a couple $100,000.
It was.
But I mean, I think that should still be on the radar. I would kind of consider that as being like one of the last things that we do to High Street, because I wouldn't want to invest that money, clean up those bridges and everything, and then we're still worried about the Jeans Auto spot. And like, I'd rather get like that squared away first and have I mean, now we're talking about the bridges themselves. We can still, at very cheap cost, maintain the like walls under the bridges where some people will paint. I mean, we can just go over. And the idea of like a artistic mural, I think is great, but I don't think that these group of rapscallions that are going around graffitiing, like,
don't give them enough credit.
I don't know if they really.
I've seen, I don't know, I've seen.
I don't
it-
know if they share the same, like, I think that if we put a beautiful mural up
I'd be
in 2
disappointed.
weeks, there would be some sort of a tag or a mark on it that would kind of like ruin it. I would much rather
You guys
just.
are letting me
I-
down.
I have done a lot of, I too have done a lot of research, and there are a lot of towns that are putting up
Okay.
like kind of promotional, welcome to Clinton. I would never 100% guarantee that someone wouldn't come and do that, but to some extent, I think. But I do think you're right. Like, I mean, there is a cost associated. I think there's a huge appetite for that beautification here in Clinton, but I do think, as you pointed out, it sounds like, hey, let's get a,
That's
roller and get out. Not that, but
I think they also have, there's, I think something that can be applied to the surface where
makes sense.
graffiti doesn't stick to it as well. So even if you did
There are two schools of right. Yeah, you can go with the Battleship Gray. It's
See, like
why not?
the Naked Gun anti-graffiti wall.
All right. Bring it back.
moving on.
town color. Bishop Gray.
So I think that's a great start, and then we can look for something a little more. If anybody has any ideas, send them to Mike or Angela, and then
Yeah, we can have some more feedback for next meeting too. Thank you.
very good. There was not any, any committee reports. I know the recycling committee, we've talked about meetings, so
Yes.
see if we can get that on the books for the upcoming week.
Conservation.
All right, any, I did not see any community announcements. All right, so our next meeting is April 3rd.
This was a weird meeting.
It's not over, so don't.
I know.
So,
Jinx us.
all right, so under, we'll be moving into executive session under employee, committee health plan proposal. We will not be returning to, does that vote have to happen?
Right, just to return to adjourn, but no further business in open session. Yeah, just to adjourn.
Very good. Our next meeting, as I mentioned, was April 3rd. And I'll accept roll call to move from open session to executive session.
Sean Kerrigan, I.
Oh, sorry, Deval, aye.
Julie Bruce, I.
Dick, all right.
Matt Kovasai. Thank you.